Abusiafo Nyankopon onhilamo na onye makoma so abisade emamo. His Excellency John Dramani Mahama Ghana for eye nadom eto aba ede ma no. 1 year mu a eni na oba ye dwuma wadi de ogusu a wodi ene de oba bedi nyina no. Honorable Felix Kwakye Ofosu. Oba bedi hu nkomo. Me pese me ne wo ye hwesa video no. Na ye wia go to the comment section na rate His Excellency John Dramani Mahama out of 10. You can say mark from 1 up to 10 max say na ode ebemano na nkrofo binum so can say His Excellency 24-hour economy or the ye de emankrofo ejina so eto aba edemano no program no ahiegu. Honorable Felix Kwakye Ofosu say program no enhye enguye na this particular year mene wo ewomu the program is going to be started na month ben na program no ebehya ase. Mesro so we pensuo bi ede asi wonche na wape video no ede akwakosi awie na wohwe ni na ewia rate His Excellency John Dramani Mahama from 1 up to 10 max bia ode manu bia tworo comment section unya unsubscribe ya mesro so subscribe like video we so share ma wonu bi no so onya bi enhwe na ohu de koso ene de ba be koso aboa am bibia aye kama beda wase nyakopo yisila ye video no emra yakoba ye beto waso.
On the fight against corruption, this government came in with the campaign called Oral. Over the past year, there are those who say that Oral has failed. What's your reaction?
It's one of those things that people say without any basis. You know, if you say Oral has failed, what should Oral have done at this point? Line up people and shoot them because they've been accused of corruption. Is that what they mean by
prosecuted, jailed, and collected money from people?
Tell me, is nobody being prosecuted now for corruption? There's no one being prosecuted.
I mean, there are people being prosecuted.
So then, what's the basis for saying now? And when you take someone for prosecution, must the judgment be summary? Must the person be prosecuted, convicted, and imprisoned the same day you take him to court? Before you say that.
But how many oral cases are being looked at now?
There are so many of them. The buffer stock case is in court. The National Service case is in court. There's a case involving Woon-to-me that is in court. The Sky Train case is in court. The National Signals Bureau case is in court. And there are quite a number of them are also in court. There are also many of them that have reached what they call docketing stage. So dockets are being prepared. And as and when sufficient evidence has been gathered, they will go to court. That is the process that you use to punish corruption. So when you say Oral has failed, exactly what it is that should have been done that hasn't been done. I know that close to 100 people have been investigated. Some have been given bail. After that, you put together your evidence. Then you build a case through a docket. Then when you are convinced that you have sufficient evidence, you go to court. You charge the person and put the person before a court. Now, the reason why you take the person to court is that you, the one accusing the person of wrongdoing, does not become the judge over the case. So you take it to a neutral body to examine the evidence you say you have. Then the person who you have accused is also given the opportunity to state his or her case. If the judge finds that indeed sufficient explanation has been given for the accusations, he lets the person go. If, on the other hand, it is shown that there's really no credible answer to the charges, the person then gets convicted and then serves whatever punishment the court deems necessary. This is the defined process. So when somebody says Oral has failed, you have to let them explain what they mean by Oral has failed. So when we catch somebody who is accused of corruption, what exactly must be done to the person that has not been done?
Maybe they expect the cases to move faster than they are.
Yes, but there's a need for thoroughness. So I suspect, Kemini, that you stole this your shoe, and I've been banding it about. Once I am in a position to take action, what I do is to question you. So where did you get this shoe from? You say, oh, it is from the process of your work. Then I say, no, I have evidence that you stole this shoe on this date. You say, no, that is not the issue, and I deny all charges. Okay, let's go to court. So I have evidence that you stole this shoe. I'll put it before a judge. You also say you have evidence that you didn't steal it. You put it before a judge. The judge has to go through the motions to hear both sides and then make a determination. That is what Ghanaian law says. Ghanaian law does not allow that the moment I accuse you of stealing this shoe, I tie you to a stake and shoot you. That is not allowed by our laws.
But do you agree that some of it has also come from your side of government when we hear comments about deals being cut behind the scenes.
Which deals have been cut?
Well, that is what we are told. Have there been instances where...
So name one instance where a deal has been cut.
Well, you'd have to tell us whether or not
such... no deal has been cut. Absolutely none. You understand me? If someone cautions that, hey, make sure you don't go and cut a deal, it's not the same as saying that a deal has been cut. The president, who has final authority, says that he is not going to countenance the cutting of any deal. And so far, everybody who has been accused, against whom sufficient evidence has been found, has been put before the court, or is in the process of being taken through that system. So the criticism is not founded, it's not grounded. You know, the MPP itself.
But the AG himself had also given that impression. Apart from what the General Secretary of the party has said, the AG himself had also given the impression that there were those who were agreeing to return some of the monies.
But, Kamini, that is also allowed by our laws. The law allows that if I accuse you of some wrongdoing, and you think that, well, looking at the turn of events, you may end up being convicted and going to jail, you want to avoid that. You can make a formal application through your lawyers to the court that, okay, I accept that I'm guilty. So I stole this amount of money. I accept that I'm guilty. But I know that if I'm convicted, I may go to prison for 10 years. So if you would agree, I will return whatever it is that you say I have stolen in exchange for a mitigated sentence. It's called plea bargaining. It's not only in Ghana that happens. So then the state has to determine whether, rather than putting you on trial for all that length of time, and also having a situation where you could well be acquitted and discharged, I should not take the money that you say, or I have accused you of stealing. So that the state gets its money back in exchange for a lighter sentence. It happens all over the world. There's nothing illegal or wrong about it.
I agree, but
so, but except that
people think that it incentivizes rather than
it doesn't. You see, when you go to court, especially in criminal cases, the bar is so high. They say you must prove beyond reasonable doubt, such that if you are able to show reasonable doubt, even if there is other circumstance that may point to guilt, the court will let you walk. So any prosecutor will assess his chances and say that this matter does not look as straightforward as it appears. And that rather than taking the chance of having this person walk free, let me take what I have accused him of stealing. It comes to the state, so the state gets his money back. But for the state to do that, you must accept that you have done the wrong. So you are found guilty. Except that if you were going to go in for 10 years, they may say you go in for 3 years. So it's a mitigated circumstance, a mitigated sentence. That's what it is. But I'm saying that it is lawful. It does not mean that is what this government will do. This government has not done that. Indeed, the Attorney General disclosed that somebody came to him, someone who has been accused of stealing about 30 million cedis or so, said that they could return 22 million. He said, no, I won't take it. Because the person didn't want to accept that they were wrong. Just so that he gets his peace of mind. He says, I'll pay you 20. I think you turned it down flatly. So it's not like the Attorney General is going around taking plea bargains. So the critics who say these things must be fair to the facts and understand that the law is clear. And if you agree that one law should be applied, you can't say that another law should not be applied. So we are either a law-abiding country or we are not. So if an accused person makes a formal request, the request will be examined on the face of it. And where merit is found, it may be followed through. But as we speak, there's not one instance where anybody accused of corruption has done a plea bargain in exchange for being allowed to work. That hasn't happened.
Let's look at the issue of illegal mining.
Yes.
Has this government achieved much?
Well, significant progress has been made. You see, again, you need to look at where we have come from. When we came to power, we found that there was territory belonging to Ghana in the shape of 9 forest reserves that had been taken over by non-state actors, bandits, and thugs who were literally providing security for illegal miners. And it was a no-go area for government. That was at the beginning of this administration. We immediately took steps to take over those forest reserves, and we've done so. So that clearly is progress.
That's progress?
Of course, there has been considerable public concern, and rightly so, about the pollution of our water bodies and the continuous presence of illegal miners in certain areas of our country. So government has launched an onslaught to flush out these illegal miners whilst adopting other strategies to ensure that we overcome this canker definitively. So for several months, there was some demand for the repeal of LI 2462, which has been done. It is no longer part of our laws. An additional step of amending the Mining and Minerals Act will be taken to make it impossible for anybody to mine, whether legal or illegally, in a forest reserve. In addition to this, additional measures have been introduced to stop the influx of excavators whose use is not too clear to the authorities. Arrests have been made. Special courts will be set up shortly to ensure that we have a much quicker way of dealing with these miscreants who engage in illegal mining. So a lot of things are happening, even though I'll be the first to concede that we have not achieved fully the objective of eradicating galamsey. But the pace at which we are going and the way that NIMOS is working, on a daily basis, they disrupt the activities of people engaging in illegal mining. So we expect that within reasonable time, we will overcome this canker.
So you think you're not winning yet, but you have made
we are making substantial gains, and the evidence is clear, yes.
Very well.
We are making substantial gains. There are places where government agents could not enter in forest reserves in this country when we took over power. Now that is not the case.
I want us to look at the subject of presidential travels and just your government also got a lot of flack for trips that the president had taken. Got a lot of flack in Parliament because the subject of a presidential jet was broached, and even when approval was given for the ones that will now be bought. Have they been bought yet?
No, not yet. Bought. Yeah. I'm not sure about flack. Yeah, there were members of the opposition who were posturing and purporting suddenly to be opposed to the idea of having a presidential aircraft. Only a few months ago, they were seeking to buy one themselves. You see, that is just politicking. It's not any principled position. You see, they are eager to equalize for the righteous indignation that Ghanaians poured on them when they were found out for misusing taxpayers' money. You see, President Mahama is not terribly afflicted by the bag of profligacy and ostentation. What it is that we have a presidential aircraft, which is about 15 years old. Those who manage it, which is the communications squadron of the Ghana Air Force, and mind you, that platform is a Ghana Air Force platform, even if the president uses it. The Ghana Air Force owns it, and they take care of it. They have advised government that given the frequent breakdowns of the current aircrafts, they think that it is more cost-effective to purchase a new one, which will enhance their operations, as opposed to relying on this one, which tends to break. Indeed, under the NPP, there was a time that the plane went for maintenance for 9 months. When we came into power, President Mahama used it for about 3 or 4 trips. Then he broke down again and went for repairs for 8 months. So within the 9 months and 8 months that it was not available, alternative arrangements had to be made. Those arrangements tend to be expensive, and therefore the communications squadron is advising that it's better to get a more reliable one. That saves you the cost of having to rent a plane anytime that the president has to travel when this one is not available, because this one is prone to breakdowns. That is what that has happened. Also, the presidential jet has not been available for some time, but the president has not gone to rent a jet. He has used what is available to you, which is his brother's aircraft, which doesn't come...
Which also caused controversy.
Where's the controversy, if I may ask? So the president has the option to dip his hands in state coffers and go and rent an aircraft for $18,000 an hour. He says, I won't do that. Whilst I was an opposition leader, my brother had an aircraft that I used for some travel. So I'll continue with that practice until an alternative is found for the current situation. Where exactly is the controversy in that?
The executive does not think that there was a problem with that, even up to now. You stand by it.
You see, what is the problem? There's really no problem. If the president was renting his brother's jets, then there will be because public funds would then be committed to a business activity of the president's brother.
Perception of conflict of interest.
Where is the conflict? What interest has conflicted? You tell me.
Well, remember that the issue of conflict of interest needs be a perception.
What interest has conflicted? What is Ibrahim Ahmed's interest in this government, which conflicts with his brother's use of the plane? You tell me.
When the whole executive decides to use the president's brother's jet.
I mean, if, for instance, you were known
and you tell me that the perception of conflict of interest is not a problem.
You are saying something that you have not established. So I've asked you specifically.
And what I'm saying is that Per the
You see,
law,
conflict of
it's
interest,
just a perception is good enough.
You see, conflict of interest means something. It means that the president had the option to rent a private jet, yet he chose to use taxpayers' money to rent his brother's jet. That would be conflict of interest.
But the perception that...
What is the perception?
The perception of conflict of interest is also a problem to our laws.
But I mean, you see,
it's
you are not allowed...
Just the perception itself, that the president's brother, we don't know what else he's getting in return.
So no, you tell me. First of all,
that perception alone is problematic.
When the man was not president, he was using his brother's jet.
Well, he wasn't president.
Yes.
It's
so
not,
what did he need?
You know, it's inconsequential to the Ghanaian people.
No, it is. What did the brother get in exchange for the use of that jet when he was not president?
Well, he wasn't president.
Yeah, so what has his brother received from President Mahama?
The perception of that
possibility.
The perception of that possibility is what causes the controversy.
Kamini, I cannot sit here and say that I have a perception that you are wearing a black dress. When we all know that what you are wearing is not black. And then when I press you, you tell me that is perception. What perception?
No,
yes. I'm saying that. Can I say that I have a perception that you are wearing a black dress? No. I'm not allowed to do that because that would be outrageous. You understand? Because the reality on the ground is that you are not wearing a black dress. So I'm telling you, if you say there's a perception of conflict of interest, state the conflicts. You understand me? If you heard, for instance, that the president has rented his brother's jet for $18,000 an hour, that is where you say that public funds are being used to further the interests of the president's brother. That is not happening. The president rather is saving you and I the arduous task of forking out $18,000 an hour to rent a jet. He says that whereas the presidential jet is not available because of the difficulties it has had, until a permanent arrangement is put in place, rather than going to rent jets, I will use my brother's jets, which I don't have to pay for.
How do you think you fared as a government?
Well, I think that we've acquitted ourselves quite well. And it is fairly easy to measure this sort of performance. You just need to look at where the country was barely a year ago and where we are today. And I think that any objective analyst, any objective observer would agree that the country is in a much better position than it was when we took over power. There are many things that you could look at. Look at the economy, for instance. And the economy is important because that was the single most important item for the Ghanaian voter when they went to the polls barely a year ago. All the things that you use to measure the performance of an economy are pointing in the right direction. Today, the biggest problem that people had, which was an ever-rising cost of living, has been significantly mitigated. There's evidence of reduction in the cost of living through the reduction in prices. The depreciation of the currency, which was a perennial problem and was one of the things that used to worry our economy the most, has been brought under control, such that for the first time in as many years that I can remember, the city is going to appreciate, is going to record an annual appreciation of close to 30%. And if you consider the fact that barely a year ago, the city had lost about 27% of its value, you find that we've made significant progress in that regard. And this has led to a lowering of prices across many sectors. Look at the energy sector, for instance. Today, fuel is selling much cheaper than it was when we took over. Indeed, if you compare the situation to exactly a year ago, you find that the price of fuel has come down substantially. It has translated into lower transport fares than before. Inflation is at 6.3%. There's every indication that it may even come down further.
At the same time, what explanation would you give to a section of the public who would say that, well, the indicators are good, but I don't feel it? But I'm not seeing it at my personal economic level.
It would be difficult for anybody to sustain such an argument. I mean, if a few months ago you were paying transport fares at a certain price, and today it is lower than that, you cannot say that you don't feel it. When you go to the pump, the price at which you bought fuel, when we took over, I think it was around 14 cedis a gallon, a litre, if I'm not mistaken. Today, there are some stations that sell it under 11 cedis a litre.
But the fares haven't gone down.
Yes, but the fares went down. They went down by 15%, I think sometime in the middle of this year or so, when they did the review. It has gone down. We know that there are some drivers who have tried to engage in rent-seeking behavior, but that is outside of the norm. The normal situation is that fares have gone down by 15%. The transport companies themselves announced it. The fuel pricing is real. We need to go to the pump today. There are companies, oil marketing companies, that are selling a litre of fuel for under 11 cedis. when it was around 14 cedis, around this same time last year. So it is not deniable. You cannot say that you've not felt it when the evidence is pointing. I buy fuel, you buy fuel. So you know that what I'm saying is not an truth. So whereas an argument can be made that perhaps vendors and sellers should reduce their prices further, that would be a legitimate demand. But to say that it has not been felt will not be exactly accurate. And I think that we need to be fair to these facts.
Another area someone would point to will be the price of food.
Yes.
And you know, things around that. While we see a decrease in the inflation for that, it is not as sharp as the rest of the indicators for inflation. Why? No,
but again, you need to look at the figures. There was a point under the MPP, I think 2023, I think sometime last year or so, when food inflation was around 61%. Today is around 9% or so. Yeah, so there has been a substantial reduction, and it is clear. And you see, there's data that shows, if you speak to Guta, they will tell you, indeed, we challenge them in Parliament. The Parliament's Committee on the Economy and the Finance Committee summoned Guta to a meeting, and they put it to them that there have been complaints about non-reduction in prices. Guta was able to show that the prices of up to 4,500 different items had been reduced. So whereas people may have legitimate reason to challenge the reason why some vendors and some traders have not reduced their items to the level that it should go to, there is no doubt that there have been reductions in prices. And we all live in this country, we all buy the same commodities. So I think that more can be done to lower the prices further.
Let's look at the 24-hour economy. You launched the flagship policy or program. But the legal framework hasn't been passed yet.
Yeah, I think that substantial work has been done. The 24-hour economy secretariat has briefed Parliament once on the work that they've done. The legislative framework has been considered by Cabinet, I must indicate. And I'm sure that as and when it is ready to be laid before Parliament, it will come, we'll scrutinize it, and then it will pass into law. But more importantly, the secretariat has been set up. The budget allocates in excess of 100 million cedis or so to them.
But we rolled out the program before the legal framework?
Oh no, but the legal framework only defines the scope of the program, and then also clearly defines the contours within which we are operating. But before then, work has to be done, and somebody has to do it. So that is how come there was a presidential advisor on the 24-hour economy and accelerated export development program, who had a secretariat under his purview, which then worked to put in place the legislative framework, and then all the other things that must come into play in order that the policy takes off. So that work has been done, and we expect that in 2026 it will swing into full gear, so that the objective behind it is then realized.
And 110 million cedis has been allocated to the office.
Yes.
What are we expecting that to do?
But of course, that is what they need to. You see, it's not like government has said that we will put in $4 billion to roll out a 24-hour economy. The 24-hour economy program is essentially a private sector-led activity. So government has to play a coordinating role and ensure that we put in place the systems, the framework, and the environment within which that happens. So for instance, we're speaking about giving incentives to private sector players. You need a framework within which that happens. So the secretariat that works with other stakeholders within the economy to ensure that must have a budget, a basis within which they operate to get this right. So that 110 is supposed to allow them set up fully and acquire the necessary capacity to be able to do. Once they do that, they will then plug in the activities with other players, both public and private, in order to be able to roll out the full scope of activities captured under the 24-hour economy. So it's important that activity takes off, and that is what the 110 million Ghana cedis is supposed to do.
If you were to list any achievement for the program this year, what would it be?
I think that a program has to be well thought out. It's unlike the MPP that believe in ad hoc sloganeering. We believe in more substantive undertakings. So the secretariat first has to be established properly with the right manpower in place. And then they establish the ground rules. They define clearly what they are going to do, which areas they are going to tackle. Indeed, when the 24-hour economy program was launched by the president several months back, I think that the framework was clearly laid out and set out. That has been done. What is left with now is plugging in with the various actors, both private and public, to ensure that this is, and a long list of things have been done in order to ensure that this comes to fruition. I'm sure that in the new year, you will hear more about this, and then everybody who is interested in partaking in this will have the basis to do so.
How soon is the government hoping, looking ahead, how soon is the government hoping that the legal framework will be passed?
Oh, as quickly as Parliament can consider it. Yes, as quickly as Parliament can consider it. There should not be a problem at all.
Very well.
Muni amamena wasi, so wa video edi aba awiye. Na yebebo His Excellency John Dramani Mahama odina pamfo abaso. Yes, omo ayo mafomu die, face no. Na sisi ya no aba be hye seke yie mu. Yes, tro Nyankopon se nimdie nyansa ene adwinbia ro muhia na omod betimi dia movie Ghana akona nimu no omfa enno mo ase Ghana eyeyi a eyeyi na ye de ba bibiara nso amfumsuo bi aba no yebesere Ghana fo se omo enya botre bibiala ebeye kama na se 4 year no edru na se de ye expect no ankoba sa eno no de wa utombo no eye wo de obibiala intimi nhye wo se to aba efama NDC na se NPP wo hwe economy no wo hwe obotom ase nyuma ekoyi a then you vote for them nyuma enkoyi a se ne Ghana for vote to NPP out no then you vote them out na ni nyina no aboma Ghana timi a movie forward titima me fa wo AC na me na wase na me ka se Yakopon o nhira unya unsubscribe ya na wa subscribe like video yi share ma wo ne bi no so unya bi enhwe comment bi ala wo no just go to the comment section drop ni nyina ewo ho me kan na mayi no e de am aboa o bi ala aye kama me da wase me ne wo ABC sisi e makra bye bye.